From New York to Los Angeles, Oakland to Atlanta, it is happening all over America. People are taking to the street, making their voices heard, and willing to get arrested for the cause. This is what happens when corporate America takes over the government. The people rise up. In New York, protesters are preparing for a cold weekend, even after the fire department confiscated their generators, citing safety concerns. Over 50 protesters were arrested in San Diego after police removed tents and canopies. And tonight, more questions are being raised regarding the decision-making behind Tuesday's raid in Oakland, California. Oakland Mayor Jean Quan first authorized the use of force on streets, then told police to stand down. Protesters are now reoccupying the plaza they were forcibly evicted from. Quan says she wants to hear from them. The problems are this: they don't want to hear from her. Quan attempted to address the group on Thursday, but was booed off the stage. Quan says she accepts responsibility for the incident, but is dodging questions from the media.
Mayor Quan, can we speak with you before you leave? Can you roll your window? Can you lower your window?
Mayor Quan did visit 24-year-old Iraqi veteran Scott Olsen in the hospital, where he is suffering from a fractured skull. Olsen was hit in the head with a tear gas canister during Tuesday night's chaos. He has since regained consciousness and is communicating through written messages. Doctors expect him to regain his speech. Last night, over 1,000 people attended a vigil for the injured Marine. Hospital officials say Olsen is amazed at the public's reaction.
He is surprised at the interest when we share with him that the world is watching.
Let's bring in Michael Eric Dyson, MSNBC political analyst and professor of sociology at Georgetown University and the author of the book, Can You Hear Me Now? Professor, good to have you with us tonight. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ed.
Did Scott Olsen, in a sense, change this movement? What do you think?
I think he did. Here is a man who has given his life to defending his country, to making sure that democracy could be shared here at home, and now he returns home, engages in an act of civil protest, in civil disobedience, a gesture of profound identification with the great values of democracy, and he's hit in the head with a canister of tear gas. I mean, he becomes the symbol of what it means for Americans to gird up their loins, to galvanize and rally their protests and say, as you said, Ed, that when the government is overtaken by corporate interests, when it's undermined by business elites who don't have the best interests of America at heart, it's time for the people to rise up. And I think Mr. Olsen represents the best of that democratic value, that democratic vision.
People are willing to get arrested for this movement. What does that mean?
Well, it means that people are tired, Ed. They're tired of being shunted to the periphery. They're tired of being told that we'll take care of it the next time around. They're tired of seeing politicians play footsie with their destiny, talking about budget cuts, cutting entitlements, really going against the very basic values of supporting those who are vulnerable. And in this economic downturn, in this profound recession that continues to extend, people around this country are tired of having politicians not listen to them. They want to be heard. They want to amplify their voices. And even though they've taken away the means of that amplification, technically, they have not removed the deep and profound commitment to having their voices heard. That's why they're out there.
You know, the root of this is that the folks who are out there, they want the government to change. They want the country to change. And in that sense, I see a parallel between what's happening now in the civil rights movement and also the anti-war protests that took place during the Vietnam War. I mean, what am I missing here? I think it's the same thing.
You're on it, Ed. I mean, the reality is, think about it. In Resurrection City, where Reverend Jesse Jackson occupied for some 2 months, Washington, D.C., with the Poor People's Campaign, when the Vietnam War was at its height and people around this country and indeed around the globe identified with the vulnerable and the victimized and suggested that America has to change, this is an extension of that same willingness to march, to drum up support, to rally, to galvanize, to exercise our franchise, and to tell the truth as Americans. That's our right, and that's what they're doing here.
Media Matters compiled a list of names. The right-wing media has been calling the protesters anti-American, communists, sex addict morons, parasites, and it's just to name a few. What do you make of that?
ad hominem ad feminem. When you don't have an argument, toss mud at people. When you don't have a substantive engagement with the issues, then try to berate the people. We have been victimized by that. Those of us who have identified with the vulnerable, those of us who have spoken in their behalf, those of us who raised the banner of American loyalty say that real patriotism is not denying the legitimate problems with the country, but willing to come forward and say, let's do something about it. James Baldwin said, I love America above any other country. I therefore reserve the right to criticize her perpetually. Those of us who are willing to tell the truth about America are making it better, not right-wing zealots and the lunatic fringe, which is incapable of telling the truth about America and also identifying those areas that need to be dealt with, that need to be enhanced, and that need to be embraced as a way of saying this is the truth of American democracy. Those who are willing to pay the price for it are those who are willing to see it extended.
Great friend, Michael Eric Dyson. Great to have you with us tonight.